Well, first of all, thanks everyone for calling in and for joining us by Zoom. It's great to have you, and it's great to see some new faces that we didn't have last time. I think we'll probably still have some more people trickling in as the call goes on, but we can get started with just a little bit of context. So the goals of these calls are really just to kind of bring the platform co-op community together and to connect you guys with different who have different interests and are working on different projects, and hear about great projects and the great work of people like Micky, and kind of just get a conversation going on different ways of collaborating. And they're also a chance for us to give you guys an update on the kit work that we're doing. We have one of our colleagues from the IDRC, Colin, here joining us as well. Trevor and I are working on the kit as well. So Trevor's gonna lead a little bit of some overview of some of the work that we've been doing on the kit for just a few minutes. And then also we're trying to have these calls about every 3 to 4 weeks to kind of bring in a different speaker, someone who's thinking about different things and presenting a different angle on how their work intersects with platform co-op. So pay attention to our Twitter account and see who we're having. I think on December 14th, we have Nathan Schneider, who just came out with a great book called Everything for Everyone. And he's been a close collaborator of Trevor's in the past. So we're excited to have him talk about his book and some other projects he's working on. That'll be December 14th. And then just quickly, I wanted to run through the agenda for today. So we're hoping to go for about 30 minutes. We'll have Trevor give a little bit of an overview on the kit. Micky will speak for about 10 minutes on her work. And then we really want to open it up for Q&A. So if you guys have a question, hopefully once Micky's finished, just chime in. There's no formal system for asking questions, so we'll just try to be polite and have one person speak at a time. And then just 3 quick notes on logistics. So one is just to try to keep your microphone muted if you're not speaking, just so we don't have any background interference from noise. 2, if you wanted to introduce yourself and talk about what you're working on and see what other people are working on, go into the chat feature and maybe just write a little blurb about who you are, where you're calling in from, maybe put in some social media handles or some accounts, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, whatever you want to throw in there so other people can follow you and check you out. And then finally, just wanted to let you know these meetings are being recorded. So if you don't want to have your video on, that's totally fine. Feel free to turn it off. We are going to save these videos and then put them on our website after, so people who couldn't join at this time can still watch and hear what Micky has to say and hear some of the questions and conversations we've had. So I will leave it at that, and maybe I'll get started by putting my info in the chat first, and while Trevor kind of gives an overview of what we've been working on for the past few weeks with the platform co-op development kit.
Well, I mean, maybe for people who don't have so much of a context, so we started in 2014, right, when I wrote this text framing platform cooperativism, coming out of a longer work really of many years on digital labor. And then this big conference that I co-organized with Nathan in 2015 here at the New School on platform cooperativism. And then this has branched out to many projects really around the world. And right from the very beginning, Micky Metz was part of all of these efforts. And were you actually part of our 2015 conference, Micky, or did you come a year later?
I was part of the 2015 also.
Yeah, fantastic. So Micky was right there from the beginning. And yeah, and so after 2015, we had many, really starting back then, we had many requests, I mean, really weekly of groups asking us to help them start platform cooperatives, right? From taxi drivers in South Africa to teachers in Brazil, to groups in India and in many countries, Germany. And so we started this platform co-op development kit with a grant together with the IDRC. Colin is right here. And basically the simple idea to make it easier to start these projects, right? So give an introduction to what we're actually talking about, give you some examples, a map of with all of these projects visible that you can check them out, learn about them, and also make it legally easier. And then when people are interested to go ahead and really start those projects, to also offer them some software, open source software that they can build on. So maybe something that we call a labor platform. So maybe we should more modestly say a scheduling platform will be part of that. So this is sort of the context out of which this emerges. And I mean, I'm really excited to talk with Micky here because she really has like one of the, I think, most important issues at heart in her own work, which is open source, right? And this is something that we've talked about to many people in the ecosystem, and so few actually understand it really well. So there's a lot of fear that people might just take the code and run away with it and create like a competition to their project, which I don't think has really ever happened in the history of open source, right? So many of these issues are very, certainly timely and very, very important. So having said that, I hand it over to Micky, and can't wait to hear updates from her work. She's in Mexico right now.
Great. Thank you, Trevor and Colin. This is just so brilliant, this whole idea and the putting it together so that it is realized. I'll just start with a brief intro of me. Most of you that I see your faces probably know me. So I'm a member and owner of Agaric. We're a worker-owned tech and web development cooperative. We're based in Boston, Managua, Puebla, San Miguel, Hamburg, and Minneapolis, and a few other places. I'm known as Free Scholar in some circles. I'm an industry organizer, public speaker, and advisor and visionary, and I help connect people. And I act as a liaison between the Solidarity Economy Network and the USFWC, which is the United States Federation of Worker Cooperatives. And that's with an intention to bring communities and networks together. So I'm also a member of the Free Software Foundation and the Drupal community. It's a community based on free software called Drupal, which is a content management system. I grew up in Weston, Connecticut, and I now live in Boston with my longtime partner, John Chrisman, who without his help, I would not be able to do what I do. He supports me in every way possible, and so that I can support the platform cooperativism movement. And my main focus has been in education and using education as a bridge to the community. My formal is impossible to build a movement for freedom on proprietary software. So that is why I feel it is a very important message for the platform co-op community to take to heart and truly understand so that they can speak to it. So as I said, Agaric is just a small web development cooperative. We build websites mainly for clients, and we use some of the excess money, profit, or whatever you'd want to call it, to do some good things in the community and beyond. So right now I am traveling and on a speaking tour in Mexico, and I am in Guadalajara at the moment. But I started out in Mexico City, where there is yet another beautiful story of perseverance and the strength we as humans have to overcome adversity when we cooperate. It was the third encuentro of workers' solidarity, and it was a huge success in Mexico City in early November. It was hosted by a co-op called LF Del Centro, and it was hosted in their newly acquired facility. And the mood was of joy and celebration in light of a recent victory of the Sindicato Mexicano Electricians. That's the Electricians Union of Mexico. They reanimated a dead factory, took it over, and formed a worker-owned cooperative to continue providing electricity for a large chunk of Mexico. And that is growing. The size of their company, or I mean their cooperative, which was formed from a dead company. They have some challenges. They're still struggling to become a full cooperative that is member and member driven. There are a few hitches in the plan, but we're putting them together with some people who can deeply think on how to go forward with this, because this can be a template for other people to revitalize dead industries in their town or dead companies that have failed due to capitalism. As part of Agaric, I have come down here to do a small speaking tour in Mexico City, San Miguel, and in Guadalajara. Guadalajara is where the factory of is located for a new co-op called Tradoc, and they are Blackstone tires. And the problem of becoming a fully owned co-op. So let's see, one of the things that people have brought up about platform cooperativism is that we must treat our customers as we treat our cooperative members. This is really paramount. We have to protect our customers' privacy and security as we would protect our own. So when building platforms, we must always take this into consideration. I'd like to throw out a real problem that needs solving, not just in Mexico, but in the world, but I found it in Mexico. My question was, how could a Mexican resident use a website or a platform online to sell their arts and crafts or services when there is no real mail system in Mexico and they have no bank accounts? All they have is a resident card. It's called an IFE. And the answers I've gotten are not really good, happy answers. So I would like people to put on their thinking hats, because this, as I said, is a problem for people all over the world. There are several cons to just receiving money online. Some places you just need an ID and you can show up with it at the bank and get your money, but that is expensive. They charge a conversion rate, etc. And people who want to send money will need to use Western Union or an equivalent. They can't just do it through the websites now. So this probably is a question best put to developers, but it also needs some researchers that know people who live in other countries, but they don't live in a city. They live outside the city in a rural area. There are services like Payoneer, which allows you to have a MasterCard and you can retrieve money at an ATM. But they have several ways to transfer funds in different countries. So it's not like we have one model and can tell people this is how you do it. So in short, there aren't many options. The best thing I've been advised to do is to help them open a bank account using their resident card, but that is also not easy because sometimes they have to travel several miles to a bank in a faraway city. So that's just one obstacle that I've found. While I've been here in Mexico and also in the States, whenever I speak about platform cooperatives, there is a huge interest and people just are hungry for this information. We can solve a lot of problems, but it is also up to us to know how to introduce the toolkit to people and how to make sure they understand it. Converting it to many languages will be necessary. And also teaching people the basics behind the platform cooperative. Some people have no knowledge of basic cooperatives as it is. They just have a lot of knowledge about capitalism and corporations. So it is up to all of us to get that information into the hands of the people or into the brains of the people. My high point of traveling and speaking is basically the number of people that are pretty much desperate for this information on how to, and they have never heard of this, so it's like outside of their realm, kind of like a fantasy dream that they could form a cooperative with some friends and make it into a real business that supports them and materializes things in their lives. Right now, there are people who are not even able to feed themselves. As we all know, we see on the news, the US is now throwing gas bombs at people who want asylum. This is a tragic moment in history, but it is a wonderful moment for platform cooperativism to become available to people. And I think our biggest hurdle will be translating it into a palatable, digestible form for people to be able to take part and get involved in it. I don't know if you want me to keep talking, but I think I've pretty much said everything I wanted to say. If there are people who have questions for me about specifics, like how does Agaric operate to do this, or how do I see, how easy is it to translate this to another development company that is just a company and try to help them transform into a cooperative. There are things like that that need to be done. So I'll step back now and be prepared for some questions.
This is Joseph. Hi, Micky.
Hi, Joseph.
So sorry, to frame the question a bit more, you were saying that there was a bank, like an unbanked issue with the people that are forming these rural cooperatives. Is that what you're saying? Sorry, just clearly, if you could clearly define that a bit.
Sure. Basically, I've run into a lot of rural people who are performing services, like they will go and clean some area of someone's house and yard and stuff, or build fences, or they will make things like garments, etc. You know, they'll make products, but have no real way to market these products outside of walking miles to a town that when there is an event in the town. So how to get them to be able to use a website or be part of a website that will host their services so that they can make income. The problem lies in getting the money to that person because of banking. They don't have a bank account, which is a problem I could see that could be solved when someone who is able to go there and take several people to initiate bank accounts. But this is a process. It's not something that can be done overnight.
Right.
So I'm hoping people who, can give some insight onto different ways to maybe make this happen.
A bunch of our members don't have bank accounts, and we pay them through Cash App. I mean, it sucks because Cash App is owned by not us. So we're trying to fix that.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you don't have to have a bank account to get a Cash App account or a card from Cash App. This has been piloted also by Village Financial, which they do payday lending via Cash App for people that don't have bank accounts or don't trust banks.
That is excellent. I'm going to have to hook up with you and we're going to have to chat. That is good info.
I posted a link to what we're thinking about doing to fix this. Co-op bank accounts, I mean, like the co-op internal capital accounts could act like bank accounts, I guess, if we tie them to some service. And Stripe, it allows you to issue credit cards. So we're going to try and do it, but I'll let you know if it works or if it doesn't. But I'll let you know if it works.
That's
Great.
a very interesting,
Yeah, so maybe
that's some very interesting stuff that you just said, brother.
yes.
That is extremely
Hello, Mr. Roger.
I need your services and help from some other people because I was just told before Thanksgiving holiday, which I'm not celebrating, I'm telling them, well, I'm celebrating it for you so that you can have a prosperous Thanksgiving. But what I was saying is that I do things on such a scale from the past that it works extremely efficiently, but it's not where it could be. The barter structure I use and the, I guess I call it extra sensory service because I have an extra sensory service type medium. But when you're talking about cash and your own credit cards, that would be great. Oh my goodness, boy, would that be great.
Yeah.
We'll see if
It
it works.
sounds excellent. Yeah. Well, it sounds like we have enough of an idea, enough knowledge to put together the next question. Which would be, would this be good to have a cooperative that maybe did this for people, that helped people get set up like this? That might be necessary. Or it could just be a loose group of people. Hi, Colin.
Yeah. Hi, Mickey. Yeah, actually, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, kind of as a pet project, is taking the concept of a credit union and taking that to a decentralized, global, international level for cooperatives and other individuals, finding ways to bank unbanked, etc. For direct payments, I was thinking of, is anyone here familiar with the system M-Pesa that's used in Kenya widely through Vodafone? Yeah, Joseph, I see a hand there. So, I mean, that's letting people hold money just in their phones via text. So it's only SMS. You don't even need a smartphone. So that widens its appeal. But instead of going through something like Vodafone, if you had a cooperative credit union, so it was a community you could trust, I think that would provide a strong benefit. And it's something I've been working on, just the basic thoughts for in the background. I'm not sure what regulation that would require to make it global, though. It's a conversation I'd love to have more, though. And the one other thing I saw in there, it sounded like you asked two questions early on, is A, how do you, help these people with banking? And the other side was postal, and that there isn't a postal service for them to ship their goods. I guess that's another opportunity for a cooperative, is how do we create a cooperative postal service?
Yes, for rural areas especially, that are so disconnected from news, and some of the people do not even have telephones. So maybe some kind of a GoFundMe type of a thing to get telephone connectivity for some people, or some way to do that.
Building infrastructure as cooperative projects. That's a fantastic thought.
Yes. Yes. Wow.
So let me ask a
That's
question, if I may. Is this a level of question to say that there is a quasi infrastructure that we need to have for attaining this, but we need to do it on a simplistic scale? It just appears, I mean, when I go home to Pennsylvania, Ohio, I still have some people back in the sticks who have landlines, and computers practically impossible for them. They don't want one. They don't need it. So do we have a very simplistic way of trying to reach some of the people that you're talking about? I mean, that won't understand infrastructure in the way that we see it in metropolitan areas, but could grasp it in a simplistic way that would be able to spread through these rural platforms.
I don't believe we have one yet. I believe that would probably be one of the first things to come up with. Agaric right now is involved in a project with some other cooperatives and individuals, and it's called Drutopia. And it is a hosting platform that is shared hosting. So it uses
It's
one core.
Drutopia?
Drutopia.
Okay.
That's DRUTOPIA.org. And the idea of it is to host many websites that need the same features so that the cost is reduced and people don't have to do all the security updates and the things that are troubling that prevent people with low-tech, non-technical skills. It prevents them from even getting a website. Everything would be handled for them. So this shared hosting would also be a cooperative because they would not be clients hosting a website. They would be members who would have a voice and a vote as to what happened, what features we adopt, or how we roll, you know, what is going to happen. It's not just your monthly hosting fee would go to improvement of the services, building new features, and outreach. So it's a system where the more people that are on it, the less expensive it becomes, and the more the easier it becomes to build and use as a template. So if I'm hosting 20 Drutopia sites out of my host in New York or whatever, you could just take that package model and host sites in Delaware or Mexico. We really feel there's a need for this because so many people are kept locked out of having a web presence. And so many people are fooled into getting a web presence when they don't understand it. And then it just takes them down and they are soured on the whole experience.
Okay.
Yes.
Someone was, I picked up a conversation here down on K Street where the lobbyists were talking about someone from an internet association. I need to do a little further research on who they were talking about and what was involved, but there are a number of these companies through these internet associations, and I don't know exactly what. Is anyone familiar with something that's going on with some internet associations that are putting some platforms together to complicate things? I don't know if that's what I heard for sure or not.
No, but I'm sure that's the case. As soon as capitalists get a whiff of what we are doing, they usually set up a bogus one, which has a lot of money behind it in marketing, and they sweep people away. So that is an important thing to keep an eye out for, and to have not an argument, but a comeback and something we can say that dispels their unworthiness. It just speaks to how this is not a good thing. But that's complicated.
Micky, when you talk about
as a matter of fact, Tierra, can you pull up who are they talking about? Can you see what you can pull up there and
Okay.
get somebody's names or an address or something?
Mr.
She's going
Roger?
to see if she can't pull something. Yes.
Okay. Someone else has a question right now. Trevor?
Yeah, sure. Micky, with Drutopia, so you also then host the data of the users, right? That are, hosting with Drutopia. So do they become members of the cooperative? So is that basically a data co-op where you have some kind of governance established over the data that are actually collected, where there is some kind of
Yes.
democratic governance of the data, and if so, how does that happen exactly?
That is what we are working on right now, Trevor. You have hit the nail on the head. Drutopia is just a group of us who have had this idea and are working on it. Right now, we are dealing with the governance. We need more people to get involved and give their opinions and ideas and look over what we have so far. There are about 9 people involved so far, with some fringe people who drop in now and then. But yes, it will be a members cooperative as far as we've determined now, where people can join, and you would join by hosting your website. You become a Drutopia member, and which means you have a vote. So determining the governance and writing that is where we are now. We have open meetings every Monday afternoon on Zoom. So if anyone would like to join, it would be wonderful, because yes, that is something, governance, as you know, is something that always, it's never finished, but it does get to a point where it is good for you, where it is a good basis for everyone to jump off or onto it and build it.
Yeah, we should continue that conversation afterwards. Yeah.
Yes, yes, it is a much needed thing, because as I said, so many people, as mentioned, so many people stumble into an inequitable web hosting situation that claims it has everything for them. And the next thing you know, you are owned by them. That is why I say it's impossible to do this on a proprietary platform. So, and is there a timekeeper, Trevor? Because I don't want this to go over.
Yes, maybe we can take maybe 1 or 2 more questions from anyone who hasn't spoken yet and wanted to ask Micky a question.
Okay. I think.
And remember, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Okay.
If you, so someone who has not spoken. Great. Hello, Rodney.
Yeah. Hi. Just quickly, do any of you have opinions about the loconomics effort in California?
Sure.
Thanks.
Yeah, sure. Anybody wants
Yes.
to speak to that? I can say something to it. Yeah, I mean, it's a very long-standing effort. Oh, Micky, do you want to speak to that?
Yes. No, I was saying, go ahead, Trevor. Yes,
Oh,
that
okay.
it is a long-standing effort, and Josh is still there holding for it.
That's right, yeah. No, I mean, it's, do you have specific interests, Rodney? Or, I mean, like something particular you had in mind, or you're just generally interested in the project? Or?
Well, I talked to Joshua, it's probably over a year ago.
Mhm.
I certainly, from what I could hear, I wanted it to succeed. I haven't gotten any updates in a while.
Mhm.
You know, something that helps the idea catch on is some sort of visible success that other people can point to, that other
Right.
people can improve upon and tweak. You know, are we yet at the point where we can learn lessons about, are there any lessons we can learn from loconomics? And or should we be pointing to it as a promising start?
Right. Well, I always point to their bylaws, which I think are really, you know, exemplary. And I think they worked on them for a very, very long time. And it's, you know, so I can put the link in, or maybe Michael, if you can do that, add the link to the chat or something. So that people have that reference. In terms of actually a worker-owned platform co-op, I would rather point to Up and Go, which is you know, flourishing. That's here in New York. So that is 3 worker-owned immigrant cooperatives of women who do offer home services. And so that is going very well. I think with Joshua's project and Loconomics, it's a relatively slow development over a very long time in terms of actually making it work and getting people to use it. but he has, I think, now an arrangement with the community college system of California. And I think there's some hope there that this will really pull the project out. But it's definitely very slow going. I think a much better sort of example of that kind of service is Up and Go. But like I said, the bylaws are fantastic, really interesting.
True, I agree. And I think one of the main problems of getting something like that off the ground is finding a group with a large enough user base to adopt it. And going into that is like a battle, you know, trying to find a group like that has enough members to make it a viable thing. You can't have a Loconomics with 5 users or 5 members. It just does not work. So that is something that I think that will need a group effort. And maybe we should have a mailing list for things like that when something is ready to launch, to get everyone behind it and focused on it for a week or something like that. Because it's something we can't do alone. Like even with Drutopia, we're members of the Drupal community, which has thousands of members, and we are speakers at some of their events, etc. But to reach the whole Drupal community, that, you know, it would be difficult for just a small Agaric to do that. So I think there needs to be a way for all of us to be behind a launch of something when it happens and have specific things to do. And maybe it's something we could start talking about now so that we can enact it when the time comes.
I do have just a small perspective on
Sure.
a small perspective on that. It's like if you build a 2-sided market, one side waits, right? And so like supply side generally is the one that waits. And so if you build supply side market on a co-op, what are you doing? What are you like, you know, like you got to dog food it with something. So it might be interesting to have like a list of startup projects that need, for example, dev work or need like a build project in a locality or something like that. And then have co-ops feeding co-ops with starting with jobs, right? Or starting with work in some capacity. I mean, I think what I've talked with something I think that is interesting about Up and Go is that Up and Go started with the idea that they're building the supply side and they're funding the supply side through grants. And so like they already had women worker co-ops, and like the structure of Up and Go is way different than the structure of Loconomics, because Up and Go is like, you know, like worker-owned co-ops coming together, not individuals trying to come on a platform, which is just a different paradigm. I mean, like there's in-person networks already established that are just getting connected, instead of having randos just like sign up to a thing and then hope for the best. So one idea would be that you kind of like push projects to a group and then like as a petri dish, like hope that will spur people working together. But I also think that just one thing is that like the hero entrepreneur idea of co-op development just doesn't work, and like it can't work. And like if you're going to start a co-op, you got to do it with more than just one person. Just from a Loconomics standpoint, I think that might have been like he was working on it for a long time just by himself. What is that? Just
So
Yes.
Joseph, I would be interested to hear what you think. So for the development kit, I mentioned that we want to create a map, right? Like an interactive map of the ecosystem, and also maybe add people make it possible for people in particular cities to add themselves to that map who are sympathetic to the idea, right? So that somebody in Rio, let's say, who is interested in platform co-ops can find the other people in that city. But one subset of that would be to maybe just really focus on developers, so that developers in a given city could find each other. Does that sound something I would be drawn to?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that. So like,
Yes.
yeah, one thing is that like my co-op started out of a meetup, Baltimore Black Techies meetup, and it has like 900 people in the meetup now. Like 40 people come regularly. Out of those 40 people, like 5 people started a co-op. And then like now we're growing, but like it started because we had a year of just person to person interaction with each other. And now we're building, I think that that's a more beautiful idea if there is in-person interaction connected to it. It could just be like a platform co-op meetup in all the cities. Like we don't have to like reinvent the wheel all the time. Like it could just be like in every city that we're all in, we start a platform co-op meetup. It takes no money, and we just say like, "What the hell is platform co-ops?" And people, sign up and like just talk to 2s and 3s and 5s, and then do it. I don't know. That's just
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
That's a good model.
I just wanted to second what Joseph just said. I mean, I'm part of another movement related to environmental cause, and we've spread pretty rapidly across Brazil just with simple templates for get-togethers. Just 5 topics, that someone wrote down and someone executed a couple times, and then someone picks up that same template and runs with it in another city and uses that as a a launching point just to bring people together. Put a name on it, put a generic structure on it, and people will run with it. So good idea, Joseph.
Yes.
Cool, and just being mindful of time, maybe we have we'll take for one last question or comment, and then we can wrap up and thank Micky for her time and great thinking today. But if anyone has any final question or comment.
Just one, Mr. Roger here in Washington. Is there a way that we can spread some of this around on a one-page email of the different links and things that we can take a look at? And stick in the pigeonhole for a moment. There's some very interesting information here, and I would be enthusiastically, from my own personal standpoint, I'm enthusiastic about this thing, and I'd like to take a look at some of these things a little further and participate. So I'm prepared for a donation.
Mr. Rogers, if you put your email address into the chat, we can follow up with you. Okay.
Put my email address.
So you mean like a one page? This is hard thinking, and I'd like to thank everyone for putting their brains on this, because a lot of it is difficult to think about because there aren't answers. A lot of it is difficult because we don't always have someone to talk about this with. Our partners get sick of us talking about it. And so I thank you very much, Trevor, and Colin and others for organizing these chats. I think they should go on, and maybe some of us should take it upon ourselves to have some chats that go along with this, so that it's not just dependent on the new school and Trevor to do everything.
I would certainly volunteer
So-
volunteer to do a short.
Excellent.
And I was just wondering, I hope
Let's talk.
I hope the weather is nice in Mexico.
I'm freezing. But you can see I'm wearing long sleeves. Oh, well.
Great.
But the people are brilliant.
Thank you so much, Micky, for taking the time to chat with us and chat with everyone. And thanks so much for everyone who hopped on the call today. Just a reminder, again, we're having another community hangout on December 14th with Nathan Schneider. So if you have more questions or more thinking or more connecting you want to do, please join us for that call. And then we'll post this also on our website. So if you missed the beginning, you can catch the first few minutes and hear all of Micky's thinking and questions. So again, thank you so much, Micky. It was really, really great to have you join us from Mexico.
Yeah, fantastic. I also want to thank.
You're welcome.
I also want to thank everybody, and There's
Yes.
connect your.
I certainly would like to thank everybody. This has been, and it was a pleasure, Mickey, of you inviting me. Frank passed it to me on the last minute, but I'm certainly glad that I joined the conversation. This is
Thank you,
phenomenal.
Mr. Rogers. Yeah. Wonderful. I should also say that there's a platform co-op consortium in the making in Brazil now. So that's maybe interesting for Travis as well. So we should connect about that. And that the taxi co-ops in Brazil are plotting to start a platform co-op for taxis all across Brazil. That's happening, and much more. So we can connect about that next time.
I'd also, just before we close, like to say that I'm working on the platform with Dr. Ruby Lathan, and she's putting something together that we're going, with what I'm doing, that we're going to approach Oprah Winfrey with. So if anyone has someone in the Washington metropolitan area that would like to be part of what we're doing to put this OWN into creating our own stimulus, the OWN is the Opportunities Workshop Network. We plan to approach Oprah with the creating our own Opportunities Workshop Network and see if she'd like to help us spread it down the line. So if there's anyone has someone in the metropolitan area of Washington, we welcome them to get in touch with me. There, you have my email address there.
Wonderful.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you for, I put my email in the chat too. Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Bye-bye, Mickey. And everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.